Hi everyone, it's Agata from Simply Grow, and we're about to go live. I am live now, but I'm about to be joined by Dr. Natalie Lyner from Eden Nutrition NI, and I'm just going to quickly invite. There we go, Natalie. Just wait for Natalie to join us. And
Hello.
hi, Natalie.
Hi.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, how are you?
Good, good. Oh, you look lovely. Look at your hair. You look stunning.
Piece today to get something done.
Very good. I had to change the venue because I was in the conservatory, but noticed the neighbors were a bit noisy. So I had to really
Okay.
quickly panic. And then the dishwasher is on in the kitchen. So no, not the kitchen. Go upstairs. So really quickly set up. But I can hear you okay. Can you hear me okay and
Yeah, I
see
can
me?
hear you
Yeah.
very clearly. Yeah.
Fantastic, very good. So I think we're okay to start.
Yeah.
We've got few people watching us now, but we're going to make it available afterwards
Yeah.
on YouTube as well. It will be available on Instagram for about 24 hours.
Yeah.
So would you like to introduce yourself really quickly?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Natalie. And I am married to Adam, who's a fireman. And we have two kids. So Caleb is 3.5, and Willow is 1. And both of the kids are quite different in personality, particularly when it comes to food as well. So when I'm talking about kids' nutrition, fussy eating, that sort of thing, I get the kind of privilege of having two different perspectives.
Oh, wow.
Because kids are so different, they're very individual. And I'm able to see that playing out day to day whenever I'm serving up food to the family as well.
Okay.
I've been a nutritionist for over 10 years. I sort of specialise mainly in sports nutrition, weight loss, vegan nutrition, as well as kids nutrition as well. So those would be sort of my main areas that I would be very passionate about, and that I've got specific training in as well.
Fantastic. And we met through Simply Sensory, haven't we?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Natalie, you and Willow used to come to Simply Sensory and we started chatting, and then from one thing to the other, I found out that you're a nutritionist. And now thinking about the hub, I thought that would be the perfect person to chat to, because we've seen so many parents, especially during the lockdown now, posting things about problems with food and with snacking. So definitely something that people probably find quite beneficial.
Yeah.
And we had a few questions coming through as well. So I'm just going to crack on because there's just so
Yeah.
much that we want to cover,
I
if you don't mind. Yeah.
definitely.
So the first one is, I'm sure quite a few people relate here. My toddler is always hungry and asking for snacks. What can I give him? So I think we can all relate. My little one, Amy, is 3.5, and it's exactly the same. Just
Yeah.
constantly, I want a treat. I want a treat. She calls it a treat, not a
Yeah.
snack, but she just, she's hungry.
That's her
So
word for it.
what would you recommend? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of mummies and daddies question me about that as well. And I think with lockdown, when we have the kids 24/7 and they're maybe not at school and they don't have that sort of structure, that often those hunger feelings can be rising to the surface within them more frequently than when normal, whenever there's a bit more structure in their day. So there's sort of two ways that I would advise people with this. For older children, by starting the day, you can say to your child, like, let's get a little bag and you can put some snacks in the bag for the day, and that can be their snack bag. And so the
Okay.
child can have the choice then throughout the day to go and pick one of the snacks in the bag, and they get the kind of control to be able to ration that throughout the day. And when the bag's empty, the bag's empty. That
What
works
age? Sorry to
for,
interrupt you. What age would you recommend that from,
I
roughly?
think, really from about sort of 5 probably upwards, so that they have
Yeah.
understanding of that rationing concept. Obviously kids mature at different ages as well, so take that on board, whenever you're making that decision. But the problem with that is that for younger children, then they don't have the ability to think throughout the day and be able to ration that. So for younger children, what I prefer to do is to actually timetable out in their day when they're eating, so that they know that they're having a breakfast, a morning tea, a lunch, an afternoon snack, a dinner, and then a supper as well. They then know that if they haven't eaten very much at their breakfast or their lunch, that they have to wait until that next eating slot. That eating slot, then you can offer a couple of healthy choices, and you can give the control to the child. If you're giving two healthy options, then they can choose. And it gives you the ability to give them something that's healthy, but it's giving them the kind of choice in that, so there's no power. And I think that that is often a problem if there becomes a power struggle then between the adult and the child. The other thing is that actually trying to find healthy snacks, a lot of mummies and daddies have been messaging me saying, what can we actually give the child?
Please help, absolutely.
Yeah, there are actually really great apps out there with some recommendations. Like My Feeder is a great one for ideas, and Baby-Led Kitchen as well is another one that would give me a bit of inspiration. And really what I would say is that...
Sorry, are these free apps? Sorry to interrupt you.
My Feeder, as far as I know, is free, and Baby-Led Kitchen I think is maybe £1 or £2, so they're not very expensive. But sometimes we know often how to give snacks, but often it's just that we as parents forget, and we need a wee bit of prompting and reminding of how to maybe dress a food up or change it around so that the child feels fresh. And for me, really, fruit, you cannot go wrong with fruit as a snack. But I know that often if you just give an apple or a banana, a kid will go, that's boring, I've had it before, I don't want that. So my advice is really to dress it up a little bit. For example, slice the apple up and serve it with a bit of peanut butter dip. Really healthy snack, really quick and easy. Raisins as well. I'll come on to raisins in a little while, I think, because it's a hot topic that I often get about. But raisins are actually a really good snack. Smoothies as well.
You made me just feel really good about myself because Amy loves raisins, and I'm the same. So I was like, oh, should I be giving it to her or not? But
definitely, when we talk about sugar, I'll address the raisin issue, but raisins are good. Definitely. Things like smoothies as well, you know, as long as you're not going nuts and giving people smoothies all the time, the odd smoothie will be fine. Again, you're getting lots of antioxidants and vitamins in that. Or even things like chopping up sweet potato and apple and then roasting it with a wee bit of cinnamon over it, and then they're like
that's a nice idea.
You know, again, just something different, which is still your fruit or your vegetables. And then on these hotter days, then things like frozen yogurt. You can make your own frozen yogurt cupcakes very easily by just getting frozen yogurt, a wee drizzle of honey, a few bits of chopped fruit, and put them in a wee muffin tin, and then place that in the freezer. And you know, after about an hour or two, that'll be, you know, a nice snack for these hotter days as well. Or you can get a bit of frozen yogurt in the freezer for even 45 minutes, and then you can pipe it into the center of raspberries, and then that's another easy snack, especially for baby-led weaning, that you can easily, you know, produce on a hotter day as well.
That sounds really good.
So fruit is your go-to for snacking, definitely. In terms of something maybe a little bit more substantial, using actually a lot of our cereals, it can be great. Things like porridge. You can turn those sorts of cereals into porridge, or sorry, you can turn those sorts of cereals into really good snacks. So things like porridge bars, for example, where you just would make a normal bowl of porridge with some frozen raspberries, but if you actually press it into a little like square or a rectangle oven-proof dish and you microwave it, then it will actually be able to be cut into slices. And again, you can serve that as porridge bars or healthy bars for a morning tea. Something like that, again, great for baby-led weaning and younger kids as well. Can be a real advantage for this time when we can't get out to maybe buy lots of the replenish our snack cupboard just as much.
And I think even for adults as well, it sounds like a really nice thing. Like I would have myself to go for something healthy and not just for a boring apple or a boring banana. Definitely.
You can make rice cakes as well out of Rice Krispies and mashed banana, a wee bit of cinnamon, and a wee egg, and you can pour that into muffin cases again in the oven. And those are your own rice cakes, which can be produced then at short notice when kids are hungry. So there's a few recipes I've put up on my own social media, but if anybody does want any of those recipes, just private message me and I can give you them. And apart from that, then kind of quick go-to snacks, things like breadsticks and a wee bit of hummus or avocado dip, another great one if kids are hungry. Or even little oat cakes like the Nairn's oat cakes with a wee bit of peanut butter and a slice of banana as well. Great snack. So those would sort of be my go-tos where prep or ingredients, and you know, you've got a good option, good for kids.
So would you say 3 kind of bigger meals and then 3 times for snack if you're making your timetable
Yeah,
for your little ones? Okay,
definitely. Yeah.
fantastic. And now, because you were talking about fruit, and I know some parents will be a bit worried that fruit equals sugar, and that kind of links us to the question about the sugar intake. And there was one from few parents around what is recommended, what is the recommended kind of dose of sugar per day? Does it depend on the age, or would that be dependent on the weight, or what is the recommendation there, Natalie?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the age of the child. Firstly, with regard to sugar, the number one source of sugar intake for kids, for very young children, is flavored yogurts. For slightly older children, it's fruit juices, and even diluted juices, those sorts of things. That's your number one source. There's two main types of sugar. You've got your natural sugars, which is things like your fruit and your vegetables, and your milk as well. And then you have what's called free sugar. And free sugar is anything that is added to a food. So it's your biscuits, it's your chocolate, it's your pre-bought things, those sorts of processed bars,
Yeah.
pudding as well, things like honey and your purees, your jams. Those are all free sugars. And those free sugars should only be making up about 5% of the total energy for your child in that day. Now you might think, well, what does that really look like? So if a child is under 2, there's actually no recommendation for sugar intake, because the bottom line is we should be avoiding it as much as possible.
Yeah.
For twos. If your child is aged between 2 and 3, then it's about 14 grams in a day. So that works out at about 3 sugar cubes, if you can imagine it a little better. If your child's older, then say sort of 4 to 6, then it's 19 grams in a day, okay? And that works out at about 5 sugar cubes. And if the child is older again, say sort of 7 to 10, then it's 24 grams, and that's about 6 sugar cubes. So again, I think the sugar thing can confuse a lot of parents, because they think, well, how does that look on the back of a packet? How am I meant to tell? Whenever you look at the label on your packet, when it says carbohydrates of which sugars, if the of which sugars part is 5 grams per 100 grams or lower, then that counts as a low sugar food. However,
5 grams per 100 grams, yes.
If it is 22.5 grams per 100 grams, then that counts as a high sugar food. So when you are looking at your kids' snacks, and even other things that you're giving them throughout the day, have a look and see what that figure is on the label. In terms of fruit, then, fruit does not actually count towards that free sugar, okay? Because your sugar is contained within the actual cell wall of the fruit or the vegetable, then the body deals with it differently, and it has a different impact on the teeth as well. So your sugar from your fruit and your veg is kind of in a different category. It's your natural sugars. We've mentioned again about the raisins earlier on. Raisins are actually a fantastic snack. They are high in fiber, they are high in iron, calcium, antioxidants. They're fat free. And there was a really interesting study done in 2009 where they took a group of 7 to 11-year-olds, and they split them into 3 different groups.
Oh, I love a good study.
I know, so did I. One group got a portion of raisins, the other group got a portion of bran flakes, and the other group got a portion of bran flakes and raisins. And they then compared the acidity of the mouth later on, after they had had the snack, because obviously lots of parents are concerned that those sorts of dried fruit snacks increase the acidity in the mouth, and that then leads on to plaque and dental cavities. And what the study showed actually was that the children that were given just raisins, they ended up having their mouth acidity didn't decrease as much as the children who had only bran flakes. What they found actually was that the raisins were protective, and the reason for that is that they produce this. They contain these things called phytochemicals. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that before.
No, I haven't.
No, and really, these phytochemicals are very healthy and very good. and they found that they actually fought the bacteria in the mouth. So that the bacteria that we don't want in the mouth, the dental caries, the phytochemicals actually fought that and actually protected the children's mouths. So they
That's incredible.
That it wasn't resulting in an acidic environment that often we still think that raisins and dried fruit can give. And what's interesting is, although raisins are 60% sugar, it's the type of sugar which is interesting, that because they are made up of glucose and fructose, whereas the sucrose sugar is what actually causes, it's the substrate that causes the bacteria then to increase and to cause dental caries. So they're not made up of that particular sugar, which is why they're more than they often are given credit for. So keep going with the raisins, Agata.
Fantastic. But quick question, because there are two different types. There's sultanas and the other ones, what are called sultanas and just like regular raisins. Is there a difference between them? Are just basically the same?
They're basically the same. They're basically the same. It's just how they're prepared. So.
And one more quick question I just noted down. So you know that ingredient I haven't heard of before, you mentioned. Is there anything else that includes that? Anything else that would act just like raisins? Or is it just raisins that are so special?
Well, I just love raisins just because they're quick and easy to put in the handbag, and dried apricots again, not for, obviously these are not for very young kids because they can be a choking hazard, but for older kids certainly. But I just love raisins because you can, if you're on the go after lockdown when you're out and about, you can buy a big bulk bag of raisins and they can just be put on the.
It's quite a cheap snack, quite budget friendly, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially at the moment when we can't get out to the shops for very often raisins are a great one for shelf life as well.
Okay, fantastic. Just had a question here from one of the ladies who's watching. What age would you give sugar-free flavor juice?
Oh, that's the question, isn't it? What age? Really, honestly, if we can, I know that we like to give children, those sorts of sugar-free juices as a nice treat and things like that. But although that may not have real sugar in it, it's got a fake sugar.
The sweeteners, isn't it?
Sweetener, exactly. And actually, it's a very unnatural thing for the body. Although it tastes similar to us, when it's actually ingested, the body doesn't really know what to do with those sort of fake artificial sugars. And so it can cause, your blood sugars to actually not be as stable. And so as well as that, it gives children a real sweet tooth so that they then no longer want water and they just want to eat the juice all the time. So what I'd really say is there's no age that I think, it's now appropriate to give sugar-free juice to your child. Give it sparingly. I really would say that, even for slightly older kids, because once they get the taste of a juice in their sippy cup, that's what they will ask for, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and they will stop enjoying water. Whereas if water's their norm and they really only get sugar, the juice at once a weekend, something like that, then they'll ask for it. And it's all about just setting those sort of those boundaries, day to day. So maybe not the answer you want, but that would be my best.
And what about the fruit juices? The kind of just orange juice, apple juice. Are these okay, or is it the same rule? If you don't have to, don't.
Again, once you juice or puree your fruit, then it becomes that free sugar. So it's it's no longer protected within the cell wall. So when you then drink it, it's having the detrimental effect on the mouth. And as well, you're losing a lot of the fiber. So if you imagine if you gave a child half an apple, a few grapes and half a banana, they would be very full after that. Whereas if you juiced that, they would be able to drink that no problem and probably say, I'm hungry half an hour later.
I see.
When you do juice, you lose a lot of the fiber, which is what fills the child up. And you're losing that cell wall then because it's being destroyed in the blitzing of it. So again, smoothies are okay every now and again as a nice sort of snack here and there, but certainly not every day. Don't be relying on that.
Yeah, got it. I've got a quick question, just personally. After Easter, with lots of chocolate, Easter eggs and things, does the sugar stay in your body, or does it kind of evaporate or goes out at some point? How does it work? Because with some different substances, you kind of have a drink and then kind of the body sheds it and gets rid of it. Is it similar with sugar? Once you have that chocolate egg, it just stays with you forever. I'm just thinking, should I go for that run tonight?
Not quite like that. When you take in the chocolate, your body will break that down into glucose, which is your sugar. That will then be stored in your muscles and your liver if you do not need it straight away. And the body can then get that glucose back into the bloodstream if you haven't eaten for a long time and you need some sugar to keep your blood sugar levels steady. So it's not that there's actually pieces of chocolate Easter eggs still sitting in the legs or the muscles of the liver, but there is obviously when you first take the chocolate Easter egg in, there will be an insulin spike because you've had your sugar. So that can make your hunger levels throughout the day a little bit more imbalanced. So if you find that your kids are actually saying that they're hungrier more often since they've had their Easter eggs, that's because their blood sugar levels are sort of up and down like this. Whereas we want to keep their blood sugars more gently going like this throughout the day. So that can be maybe what's happening to your child at the moment.
To myself.
Yeah, as well as that, they used to think that because kids were active and they were going, they could kind of burn calories quickly, that was the same for that detoxification process. But actually what the research is showing is that children, because their bodies are more immature, that their detoxification process is more immature as well. So if we do give them a lot of chocolate or sugar at a certain time, that actually it can take their body an awful lot longer to actually break down some of the negative toxins that can come from that sort of eating. So do be wary just how much and in how many sittings you're kind of giving that chocolate.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that. It was really interesting. Learned loads. Thank you. Now that takes us to the picky eaters, because we know with the snacks that you mentioned earlier, lots of snacks ideas, that people are asking for snacks ideas, more snacks ideas. I'm sure there will be loads on your social media. We're going to chat about it at the end of our conversation.
Yeah.
But some of the things you mentioned, the avocado dip, I would have it. I would love it. But I'm just worried that, with Amy and different picky eaters, they maybe wouldn't be as keen on them. So what would you do if your child is so-called picky eater?
Well, if you are sitting there tonight and you are thinking my kid is picky, you are not alone, okay? You really aren't. 45% of children would be classed as picky eaters. So you're sort of 1 in every 2 parents will be having a child that they would consider picky eating. And I think it's interesting to look at the whys, first of all. So one of the reasons that kids can appear picky or look picky is actually about us as the parent, because there can be a standoff between us and the child and a bit of a power struggle. If we're trying to force food in that we know is healthy and good and they don't want it and we're getting stressed, they then pick up on that stress and that non-verbal, and they then feel stressed. And whenever there's an adrenaline spike, which comes when we or a child is stressed, it actually reduces the appetite. So often when they're sitting in the high chair or the table, they genuinely won't feel hungry because they feel stressed and they're having a reaction within the body where they no longer have their appetite. So that's sort of one reason why.
Okay.
The other reason is that actually for children, they can have a genuine fear of new foods, new textures, new flavors. And this is called neophobia, okay? And it really is just, it's sort of a built-in survival technique that we all have. Because back when we were hunters and gatherers and we didn't have Tesco's to tell our food was safe, it was actually a natural protection that the body had. So when we took something into the mouth that was new or tasted a little bit different, that the body naturally wanted to get rid of it because it didn't recognize it. And that still is very active within our children today, that sort of sensation. And what's interesting is that the differences of that neophobia between children, that 72% of those differences are actually genetic. So you can genetically have siblings, so sort of like what I have, where one is picky and one is not. And it's it's actually not so much on the parenting style. A lot of it is genetic. So obviously you've got sort of your 28% is down to that parenting style, that peer pressure. But a big component actually can be the genetics. And the other real reason, which can be a factor, is that the eating environment just doesn't make your child really enjoy eating. So say you have an only child and their dinner time is maybe 4:30 and you don't eat till later on. If they're eating alone, sometimes children just don't like that. They're maybe social creatures and they don't like eating alone. And so they're not enjoying the eating environment. So they tend to just not really want to engage in their food. So that can be a factor as well. But I think my tips then for fussy eating really is that to keep offering food, even if you think, I know they'll not eat this, I know they don't like it. It can take up to 15 times for a child to be offered something before they will like it. And you might think, oh, I've tried broccoli lots of times. I doubt you've actually tried it 15 times. That's actually an awful lot of times before a child will feel familiar and comfortable with it. One technique that you can do is that every mealtime you can place a napkin beside the child's bowl or plate, and you can then say that that napkin is for them when they try a new food or a new vegetable or something new or new sauce even, that they have permission that they can spit it out on the napkin, and there'll be no judgment, no cross mummy or daddy, that's allowed. And it gives the child the place where they're not feeling pressured to eat the food, where they're allowed even just to put it against their lips or to lick it or to put it in their mouth, and if they feel panicked and they don't like it, they've permission to spit it out. And often if you repeatedly offer that same food, it'll not take anywhere near as many times as 15 if they have that safe reaction with the napkin. And I find that has been very effective for lots of mummies and daddies. The other thing is, if you are offering a new food, pair it with what's known as a safe food. So something that you know your child will like, even if it's something like peanut butter or a cracker or tomato ketchup even. If you pair it with the new food, then when the child is served that plate, they'll not feel completely overwhelmed, because something on that plate they recognize and they're familiar with. And that can often help to make the eating experience enjoyable. The other thing then is that trying to just make eating fun. Okay, so I popped these over here just to show you. My Caleb, he's my older boy, and he would be a little bit more neophobic than Willow would be. So there were plenty of evenings where my husband would come in from work when Caleb was like 2, and I'd be crying, he'd be crying at dinner, because like I'd be trying to get the food in and he'd be no. And I had to really work about making food fun again for him, because I, the parent, had made it a stressful environment just to try and get food in. So Caleb's quite competitive, so I found that there's this plate here that he really likes.
Wow.
Like a not sure if you can see it. It's sort of superhero themed, and you can make it into you pop all the food in to these little spots here. And then it's sort of a track, so each bite, he's getting around the track.
That's amazing. Where did you get that from?
That's from Amazon.
All right. What would you call it? Would that be like a
I can't remember the name of it, but it's just, I think it's just a superhero fun plate or something on Amazon, but I can put the link if anyone wants it. And that just for him made food and eating fun again, rather than it feeling pressured and me trying to force food into him. And also he's mad keen on dinosaurs, so I have a dinosaur mold. So quite often I would do things like, like scrambled egg or frittata or things like that in a dinosaur mold, so that again, you're making it interesting and not just scrambled egg on a plate, but you're sort of appealing to what they like. As well as that, getting them to play with food. So obviously your classes, Agata, are very sensory based, and when kids are, I'm sure you know more than anybody, when kids are involved, sort of from whether it be going shopping, letting them touch the foods, helping you prepare it, touching the ingredients, smelling the ingredients, all of that sort of sensory interaction massively impacts then whether a kid will accept a food at dinner time or lunchtime. There's a really interesting study you would love, actually, and it's where they took a group of 2 and 3-year-olds, and some of them got to play with fruit and vegetables. Others got to just view it on a a screen or a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a control group, and what they found is that the group that were able to hold and play with the fruit and vegetables ended up eating many more fruit and vegetables than even the ones that were able to view it on a screen or on paper. And it just shows you that, again, when a child gets comfortable with ingredients and new things, they're much more likely to enjoy it. But I think the sort of main thing on the picky eating is that you, as a parent, are the role model. So
I was just about to say that. You just read my mind there,
yeah.
because we are our children's biggest influencers, aren't they? If you keep on saying you have to eat your fruit, you have to eat this, that, but they don't see you doing it. If you tell them drink your water, but you end up drinking fizzy drinks, it's not going to happen, is it? Yeah.
You've absolutely said it. And like, even whenever my kids have their breakfast, if they then see me eating my breakfast, they're straight over to the bowl. They want some. So if we are eating healthy foods and trying new fruits and new vegetables, they are much more likely to be interested in that. And try and remember just to smile at the table too. I think as parents, so stressed, like, they need to eat this, wonder will they eat that piece of broccoli, and we're kind of like staring out of the corner of our eye, and kids pick up so much on that non-verbal. So my advice is to relax, and you as a parent enjoy the eating experience, and help the whole family enjoy it a little bit more as well.
And I think also, I know that sometimes it's a cliche, but just remembering that certain things are just a phase. So if you worry that maybe your child is not getting enough nutrition, or they'll never eat anything healthy in their life, it's probably just the phase they're going through, and it's possible in a couple of months it's going to change again. So I think just to remember that as well. But that reminds me of a very important question we've got, because remember whenever Amy was first born, you kind of established your feeding, maybe the bottle feeding, and then you hit 6 months and you have to start over with weaning. Once you feel comfortable, there's a new thing, new phase coming in, and you just have to start over, and it's completely new world. And I know so many parents are stressing about it, especially now during lockdown, when you don't have your usual support groups.
Of course.
You can't go to your mums and tots and just, get it off your chest and see what other mums are saying, or dads. But what would you say when it comes to weaning? How do you start? And kind of the baby-led weaning versus purees. What would you say about that, Natalie?
Yeah, so the two main types are your baby-led weaning and then your purees. And I think try not to be overwhelmed by the labels of that too, because I think sometimes parents feel they have to stand strongly in one camp or the other. And you can actually merge them. For example, with Caleb, I did purees with him because it suited his personality type. He doesn't like getting messy hands. He loves being fed. So for him, purees was the way I went with him. For Willow, she's a lot more laid back. She loves getting messy.
She is, isn't she?
She's into everything. So for her, I did baby-led weaning with her. And I think it definitely depends on your personality as a parent and the personality of your baby. But to know that you can do a little bit of both. You don't have to be completely exclusive one or the other. And you can combine them, and often that's a good way to kind of do it.
It's really good you said that, because I know that a few mums, since becoming a mum, I spoke to, they were really static. I was doing baby-led weaning. This is what we're doing. We're not changing. We're going to stick with it, even though it was just stressful on everyone in the house. But the belief, because again, especially if you're a first-time mum, you want to do best. Everyone wants to do best for the children, so you kind of want to follow the rules of baby-led weaning. But actually, hearing from you, from the specialist, that it's okay to just relax a little bit and just whatever works for you and your little one.
Absolutely. I think from a lot of parents that would come to me or message me, again, they often feel pressure of, I'm a baby-led weaning mum, or I'm a puree mum. And I think, we put that label on ourselves. It's just about letting our child experience food, and how we choose to do that can be completely individual. It can be a good mix if that suits you. I think in terms of timeline with your weaning, you want to be weaning at 6 months. If you wean before that, there is some evidence that suggests if you do wean early, that there can be a higher risk of gastro and also respiratory infection. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind, because I know when babies go through the 4-month sleep regression, a lot of parents then say, I need to put my baby on solids because they're no longer sleeping through the night, or they're not doing long stretches, and they blame the food, when actually it's more likely to be around your sleep regression, which I know Susan from Settle Petals talked wonderfully about last week for you. So you don't want to be leaving weaning any later than 6 months, however, because you actually do need to start giving some nutrients to the baby through food. So particularly iron. You know, if you're breastfed, you know, your breast milk will not be providing enough iron at that particular point. So you don't want to be leaving it later than 6 months either.
Yeah.
I think in terms of signs of readiness, you want your baby to be sitting up in the high chair, able to kind of lean towards you in the high chair, and whenever you are offering food, that the baby's mouth is open and interested, and they're looking at the food. Those sorts of signs of interest is a real cue that the baby is ready. And then between the ages of 6 to 9 months, you want to be just allowing your baby the experience of food. So that's why you don't have to necessarily be an exclusive puree mom or dad, or an exclusive baby-led weaning, because your goal is simply to allow your child to experience food, feel food, experience textures, flavors, that sort of thing. And up until 8 months, you can be offering milk, whether it's breast milk or formula milk, and then giving the child the food. After 8 months, then you can be offering the puree or the baby-led weaning food, and then your milk. And then by age sort of 9 to 12 months, you want to be, you know, getting into a bit of a routine of 3 healthy meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as snacks throughout the day as well. And that will sort of get your baby into a routine. But breast milk or formula milk should be the main drink up until 12 months. So in terms of then the 2 different types, sort of the pros and the cons, with your purees, particularly for first-time mums or dads, often that's maybe the way that they were weaned, and so their mum and dad and the grandparents can some input, and that can make it a bit more comfortable. So that could be an advantage. I know as well that lots of parents feel that doing the baby-led way can make them feel concerned about choking. So purees might actually help the anxiety of the parent, because they may feel that there's not as much choking hazard. Now, there's no research that suggests that the baby-led does do that, but I know the anxiety of the parent can be more of the kind of focus there. As well, you know what's going in as a parent. So when you're spoon feeding, you know that half of that pouch went in, or half of that bowl went in, and that can again help you, you know, feel like you've got a wee bit of control, and that you know that you're nourishing your child. So that is an advantage. And it's also less messy. So if you as a parent don't like mess, then that's something that you need to weigh up as well. The downside with the purees is that it can be less fun for the baby. You've got less of that sensory issue going on. And as well, the parent is often less likely to sit down and also eat their lunch or their dinner or their breakfast, because they're feeding. And certainly with Caleb, I found that I wanted to eat at a different time, because I could then eat in peace after I spoon fed him. So it's definitely something to factor in. With regard to baby-led weaning, then the whole focus of it is that the baby is in charge, that you are giving slices or wedges of food that they can control, so that they can actually control their own appetite, and that appetite regulation. And so there's good research that suggests that by doing that early, that it will help actually the child have a more regulated appetite later into life. So that's one advantage. It's also good for dexterity, that hand and mouth action and the pincer grab, that can be a real benefit. And as well as that, you're more likely to eat with your child if they are self-feeding. Or if you've other children, if they have siblings, you're much more likely to be able to then just give the baby kind of what the slightly older siblings might be eating, and making that more a social, happy environment. The downside of your baby-led weaning is it is very messy. Like, there is mess galore when they are in charge. It's on them, it's on the high chair, it's on the floor, it's on you, and that may not suit your personality, and that's valid too. as well as that, you're unsure what actually goes in. So at the end of the meal, I think, oh, they ate really a lot. And then you look at the floor and you
Yeah.
I have no idea how much went in. And that can be concerning for a mum or a dad or a granny or a granddad, whoever's feeding the child. So it's definitely something that you as an individual has to weigh up. If you are doing the baby-led weaning, the best things to start with are really soft fruits and vegetables that are well cooked pasta or shredded meats, those sorts of things. And you want them big enough so that the baby can hold on to them. So a wedge or a thin slice, something like that. With regard to like avocado or something slippery, you can actually sort of toss a few bits of ground baby cereal into that, and it just gives them a wee bit more grip. It's not slippery. And you want to be avoiding things that are coin size. So anything like that can be small and a choking hazard. So things like grapes, hot dogs, popcorn, raisins, those, even peanut butters, those sorts of things at the start, because they can be a choking hazard. But really my advice is to just let your kid have fun with the food. And that's your goal. You know, it's not to have a perfectly perfect sort of nutrition plan at those early months, but just allow your child to be introduced to food and nutrition in a really healthy, happy, positive way.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure lots of people can relate. Just had a little comment from Lynette here, who I used to come to classes as well. Big thumbs up for baby-led weaning. And even seeing the photos of babies, kind of, you know, some of the babies that used to come to Simply Sensory, and now you can see even on Instagram, following them, how they started their journey with baby-led, and now they're even able to hold their spoon a bit better, and just, you know, the dexterity, as you said, is definitely developing a bit quicker there. I have to say, with Amy, I did the purees because that was my thing with the mess, even though if I was to do it the second time around, I would probably go with baby-led. But it sounded, because quite a few mums around me were doing baby-led, and it just sounded so stressful that I thought to myself, no, I'm not putting myself through it. But I think definitely if I was to do it second time, probably would try that, definitely. Thank you so much for that. That was really, really informative.
No problem.
Learned notes, took so many notes here. I'll have to go through them myself. But I've got the last question for you, just to wrap it up. I'm sure we're going to meet again to have another Insta Live chat in a few weeks, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
So many questions, though, that I'm sure everyone would like answered, myself including. But just to finish us off, as it's a chat with Simply Grow, and Simply Grow, it's obviously about sensory developmental classes for babies, but it's so much more, I feel, just about personal growth as a parent, a carer, just as a person, you know, our journey of learning. So I've got a question for you. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us 3 things that you do for your own personal growth, how do you kind of keep yourself going? If you don't mind sharing it with us.
Sure. So 3 things, is it?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think the first thing is I love running. So from a physical health point of view, that keeps me sane more than anything. Getting out if the kids if I've had a hard day with the kids, getting out for a run and just getting that stress away and having time to think and process and dream a little bit, that gives me space to do that. So that's definitely one way. I think in terms of my work, then I love research, as you from my background doing the research degree, and just keeping up to date with the new things that are out there, really, so that whenever I'm working with a client or a parent, I'm able to give the most up-to-date, relevant information, just to be able to help people as much as possible. And that encourages me to always be reading, always seeking to find the latest research. So that definitely helps me grow from a work point of view. And then from a sort of me personal point of view, I would have a real deep faith and love for God. So for me, actually spending time working on that personal faith journey helps me really grow, and helps me just to kind of work out where I am and where I want to be, and how I want to do that. So those would sort of be the 3 things that keep me on the path and keep me as sane as I can be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing these.
No problem.
And now, if anyone would like to get in touch with you, Natalie, what is the best way to do it?
Yeah, you can message me on any of the social medias or email me. All my details are on both Instagram and Facebook. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to message me. or if you want a consultation online or over the phone about your kids, we can arrange that as well. So
okay, I was just about to ask, is it one-to-one consultation you provide? Obviously you wouldn't be doing group consultations now, but if someone wants one-to-one support, you can definitely reach out. That's fantastic. And that's for children as well as adults, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, normally I would be seeing people face to face and doing body composition analysis and things like that, but obviously in these times it'll just be via, you know, Zoom or phone call. But yes, for adults or for parents about their children, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, being busy with 2 little ones and still looking gorgeous. Thank you so much. And we are going to make that available on YouTube tomorrow, but for next 23 hours I think it's going to be live on Instagram. And then we're going to have a little blog post as well, won't we? So we can post that later on our websites for everyone to catch up if they prefer to read rather than watch things. But I really appreciate it. Next week we are going to chat to Agata from Love Your Birth. We're going to talk about hypnobirthing. If you like to tune in. Yeah, so lots of things I've got to line up till I think mid-June with different interesting people like yourself, chatting about things that are, you know, kind of within our interests. So thank you so much for your time tonight. And I hope I'm going to see you very soon. Fingers crossed. Thank you. Take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.